I've started a new webinar series and I wanted to make it easy to see what time the sessions are happening in your own time zone. So I had to do this in 3 different places. Firstly, inside cuecam, then on the website, the cuecam website, where it sort of shows a timer, and then finally when I'm sending out emails. So this is the Elixir code on my server, cuecam.webinars. Before I made this video, I finally renamed the website from Beatsheet to cuecam, which I have been putting off for a year, and it was like over 300 files got changed. But just so that I could show you cuecam.webinars instead of Beatsheet web.webinars, which is weird. Anyway, the way this works is we've got the dates of the first, so it's every other week I do a different time zone. So I've got like an EU one and a US one, and what this is basically the first date that I can then start to calculate the subsequent dates from. And this little tilde n means a naive date time. So this is an Elixir thing where it's not going to try and encode any time zone stuff in there. So, and I just want to sort of keep it simple here and just say, okay, it's on this date and it was at this time, and this is going to be like in UK time, my time, so that I can just think about that. I do some stuff around like showing the timer for 5 minutes after it started and like letting you join 5 minutes before. So I thought, like, let's have that grace period like encoded somewhere. And then we just have this function, next webinar, which just basically sort of, it's a singleton thing. It's available throughout the app. I'm not really trying to like pass this through, put it in a database or anything. So I can just like call cuecam.webinars.nextwebinar and like get the next webinar. And so that's going to look at what the time is now. You see, this is UTC. This isn't like a naive date time anymore. And then I just shift that backwards by 5 minutes in case the webinar's already started, just so that it's just like, so that it naturally like gives me one that's already started, and then that just gets piped in. So this is Elixir syntax. We take something, we pipe it into the first argument, we pipe it into the and then we pipe that into the first argument. So you see next webinar from includes a date there, so that's now. And then this is, honestly, I'm not very proud of this code, but first, you can sort of see where it's taking that naive date time and turning it into like a real date. So this is now like a date with a time zone and all that kind of stuff. And I based it on where I am, EU. And then, but what we have here is actually a stream. So this is actually something that AI kind of came up with. It's not something that I'm that familiar with using really, but a stream is essentially something that can keep being called and keep giving new values back. And so the clever thing here is we create a sort of stream that can be iterated on, and then that has this function here that just keeps shifting that date forward by 2 weeks. And then timex is a library that's like a little bit, it sort of knows a little bit more than just the basic date time, just it makes it easier to sort of shift it forwards by 2 weeks. So this now is going to basically go from the first date and just keep iterating forward 2 weeks until it finds one that is in the future, which is what happens here. So like datetime.compare now is in the future, GT greater than. So that's how it finds the next EU one and the next US one. And then this is a nightmare, but I wanted to be able to say like just give me both or give me one or the other for reasons that became important later, but I was like, I can't be bothered to enforce whether that's a list or just an atom, or a list of atoms. So I just was like, okay, well, let's just catch the atom and the list, and then we're fine. And then for everything else, we're just going to put things in. So this is just a mess. I'm sorry, but like something that something I wanted to do, like because I'm just getting a date by doing this thing. I didn't want to have to revisit that, but I did want to be able to give a little bit more context to the date value. So I wanted it to know which one it was, and I also wanted it to have the zoom link. So I just wanted to be able to pass back a little bit more information, and I just ended up doing that by like, instead of like sorting this code out, I just like matched. So this is case, it finds the first one of the two things, and then it so it's basically like looking for the next one. So if it's the US or the EU one, and then it like matches on the date again. So this is really inefficient. You shouldn't do things this way, but it then like, okay, using that little character, we can sort of match in a case statement to the value, and then sort of like pass that value back with, you know, with the right link. So that this is all very convoluted, and you should never do this. But so where are we actually showing this date? Well, the first place we're showing it is inside cuecam. So this is a Swift UI app, and it's showing it up here. So the next webinar is on Monday at 4:30, and that's going to show in your time zone, right? So here's how that looks like inside. Well, this is the website again. So this is what cuecam calls on the website. So it's already authenticated, it knows who you are, and it's just like, it just asks for the next webinar, and what it gets back is a little bit of JSON. And I'm like, some people would make sure that these were like underscore separated values, but I just cannot be bothered with the admin of switching between the two things. So I just give it something that's sort of Swift friendly, because that's the only place I'm using it. And so I give it the start of the, so I go and call that next webinar. And I don't really care what the thing is, but I do care maybe what the Zoom link and the next session time is. And so, this is misnamed, this should be like the next session time. But yeah, it just turns that into an ISO 86018. So this is like a standard time-stamped date format that is very safe to kind of share between places. So I do that. I kind of like, it's useful to know that grace period within the app as well, to know whether to show the join button and stuff. And also, I can sort of see if that user has like registered yet. So have they registered to receive webinar emails, so that I can sort of decide whether or not to show the register button. And then the Zoom link, I don't think I actually use it at the moment. So that's what gets sent, and then this is where it sort of gets fetched. So we fetch into, you know, a decodable struct which has those same values. So you can see it kind of knows, I configure the JSON thing so that it knows to find that that's a date and decodes that automatically. And then the other things are just like in some strings. And then I've just got this like singleton state class, and I kind of use quite a lot of these singleton state classes throughout the app. Again, like, yes, that does inhibit my ability to do dependency injection if I wanted to, but like, I just find it much more convenient to sort of use this model of grabbing the shared webinar state from wherever I am, and sort of not having much on there, so that I know it's not going to be like updating too much. But I do tend to put a reminder to myself, because I have observable object in my app, and I also have @observable, which is a newer way of doing things. I actually find like the two different models have different benefits. So also, so sometimes it's just good to remind myself, do I need to do an observable object on this, or is it just going to like automatically do it the new way? So this just does some more clever stuff to only update the view if necessary, whereas the other one will update whenever the object, any values change, which can sort of be quite a lot of changes. But here's the body of that view, and you see like it ends up being like not the simplest thing. So I can see if there's a webinar in progress, and then I'm sort of displaying in an H stack, like, okay, I'll sort of like show that there's a webinar coming up, and then I will say if it's like, so basically if the time remaining is in the future, which will also be the case, because if the, how do we, I actually like implicitly, because the time is always going to be in the future if we did that, we apply that grace period, so that I can just assume that it's in the future, or it might have already started as well. So it's sort of, if it gets one, yeah, if it's, yeah, no, well, you see, no, it always sends it back, that payload, but that could be less than one, and then we know that it's in progress, right? So it's checking for the next one, but that next one can be this one, and so that will have a negative number for that time interval since now thing, and then that means that I know that it's in progress for that 5 minutes grace period. And that just means I can write in progress, and I can write join, and then these all just open the same page for now. I haven't made it like use the Zoom link or anything. But if it's not in progress, then it checks if it's in the next 5 minutes, like the Zoom call is still like it's active, you can start joining, yeah, if it doesn't show the, so if it, yeah, so it's also, yeah, like if this is formatting the countdown. So this, if it's kind of coming up, it's going to format that minute second countdown as well. And I sort of put that in red to say, yeah, okay, that's counting down. But otherwise, it will show the date of the next one, right? So that's what's happening there. And then what we've got here is, and then the opted-in value there is used to say, like, have you registered or not? Sorry. If you haven't registered, then it's going to sort of show, it still shows the same thing, but it's just so it's not saying register if you've already registered. And then this is basically updating every second. And I'm just quite cautious about not like resetting the value every single time if it doesn't need to update it. So it's like, it is kind of checking, it is like looking at that number every second, which is kind of crazy. It's but like it's hopefully not updating the view, which is the thing. But yeah, that is sort of like counting away, and I've been a little bit conservative about that. But yeah, so that's the app side, right? And then just to look at format date, this is like an annoying amount of code as well. So sometimes I use the format time thing. I don't know if I ended up using that. I think I did. Let's see. Did we do format time somewhere? Yeah, so we did format time, so that says it's at 4:30, and then we use format date in another place, I think. But yeah, so the format time, I think I don't even use this format date, to be honest. I think I just say it's Monday, and then I say the time. So I think I just actually, because this just I kind of hate this. So I just think I ended up going like weekday, so it just says Monday 4:30, and then it's just like formatted that in your system time zone, so it just doesn't need to know anything else. But so that's within the app. The next place we do it is on the website. So actually on the home page we have this next session countdown timer, but I'm also showing you the sort of the form on the website where you register. So it sort of like lets you opt in to receive the emails, and it lets you select your time zone and lets you select which one you want, and there's some complexity to all this as well. So the website uses Phoenix Live View, which looks like this. It's got so this is the next webinar countdown. So the way Phoenix works is when you sort of like when you kind of hit the website, it actually like spawns up a process just for you on the server, and it's like the Elixir runtime, the Erlang runtime can sort of spin up like millions of these, no problem. But what's nice about that but it's a different way of thinking about like client server, like web applications to sort of make maybe a JavaScript thing, or like if you're doing REST APIs and stuff like that, because you just know you have this process, and you can be sort of smart about how you like deal with those processes. So before I did this, the home page was just a normal HTML page, and it brought in like live components. But then I thought, well, actually, like if I did that, I'm going to just be firing up multiple processes for that one session. So I might as well make the whole landing page a live view, and then I can put a component in, and it's still just all going to be running off that same process. So that's what's happening here. It's a live component. And then this, you can sort of see we've got a similar kind of like render thing. And we have this special object format, like this way of rendering components in Phoenix, I think since 1.7, where you can just like, you get these little components and you can sort of make your own. So I've got like button link. And so it's sort of like showing, and we've got these like conditional things. So if the time remaining is less than 0, then show that there's a session in progress. Can join session is it within the grace period? By the way, that time remaining is fetched from that thing and then passed into the assigns, which is this thing, and then anything in assigns can be used inside this view. With the sort of like leading at character. So you see I've got a lot of conditional little bits and bobs happening here. But how's it doing the time zone when you first come onto the website? I don't know who you are. I don't know what the server doesn't know what time zone you're in unless I explicitly tell it. Send that through, but it's not the simplest thing to do. So, but what does know is JavaScript. So here, I've put a little, well, in fact, can you even see? So I've put as an ISO 6, the formatted date time inside a little component here, which uses a Phoenix hook. So now there's a little bit of JavaScript that I can run every second here. So that's what's happening here. So the format date, so we see here's the hook, hooks.format next date. So that's what I just referenced there. And then when it's mounted, it formats the date. And then when it's updated, it formats the date. And it updates in response to a little sleep timer that's on that process, and it's literally actually running on the server like every second or every minute, and I actually dynamically decide how often to refresh it. But basically, whenever the server says, okay, like update, then this JavaScript component knows to update, and it knows to reformat that date. And then we can do, you know, some JavaScript date.toLocale string stuff. Sort of figure out the out. You see this is grayed out, so I'm probably not even using this. Like, it's just crazy. You see we've got all these magic numbers in here, but if you've ever done dates, you kind of know that 1,000 times 60 by 60 by 24 hours, 60 minutes, 60. You know, I try not to hard code the actual numbers. I try to actually like let myself know that I'm talking about minutes and seconds. But you see, like, we're updating the inner text of the component with like these locale strings. And you can sort of format those hour, minute, like out, and I put it in like 12-hour clock just because I don't mind it saying 3 p.m. It looks a bit neater. So there's the JavaScript formatting, but then I also want to let you set your preferences when you register because like you first to sort of this drop down needs to like show you in your local time. So it just makes a big drop down with all the time zones, which I get from the from TimeX, or like there's a TZ data that kind of gets automatically bundled in. Sorry, I hope you don't mind this session being a bit looser, but I don't want to, like, if I try and polish these too much, then I don't release them. So it's just, I'd rather do a looser one and just like, sorry, I just knocked the microphone off my shirt and just, we deal with it. So this is the drop down thing. So what does that look like? This is a whole form component here. So we've got like this, you know, webinar preferences form live. So this is a live component again, and you can see a little bit more about how a live component works here. So you've got your render function, which is like just puts the view in. I worked with another Elixir developer sometimes, and he hates that I always forget to put spaces between my functions, and like, it drives him mad. But this was all very rushed, by the way, because it didn't seem like the most important thing. It just seemed like a neat idea to be able to show like in the local time and not make the user have to figure it out. And I was like, I'm just going to do it. It's going to look neater if I figure out all this stuff out on behalf of the user. And then, you know, I find myself in this rabbit hole. But basically, I've got this unstyled form component which can take these little input fields, which hit this form object, and that form is created. You know, we sort of create a change set. So I've got a user info change set. This is actually pretty good, like compared to some of the other stuff I've shown you. Like I've got a user info change set, which is like just like whitelisted things that I want this form to be able to like change. And then there's a toForm function that turns it into a form that Phoenix can use. And then yeah, we're just kind of like, it's doing a lot of the work for me here. You see, I'm just thinking about like what I want to do, and it's just these 3 text fields. And then I'm sort of passing in those time options. And so this is where the time options, we are hitting this next webinar from, but also it's using this EU and US argument to sort of like be able to get both of them instead of just the next one. And then like, again, I hate this kind of like pairs of sort of identical stuff, but sometimes it's like, you know, like there's only so much time in the day. So I sort of take the formatted US time. So basically, anytime you like change the form, it just saves it to the database. But also so it'll hit this handle event save. So that's what that save is doing. So this save here kind of maps onto that save. So we have pattern matched arguments in Elixir that let you kind of like sort of set up functions with the same signature, the same arity, but like it can like pattern match on the different string and say, okay, well, when it's save, I know that it's, you know, I'll handle it one way. And also and the user, you know, the user was assigned by this form thing, it created this user model, and then it's just like all kind of being handled by the framework. So all I've got to think about is, you know, updating the user info with the attributes that have come from the form, and then I just like put a thing to say it's saved. I don't think that's actually used because of, we won't get into that today. I reassign the current user so it's up to date. I update those time zone options because I might have changed the time zone and I might want to show newly formatted time values. Put the form in again, and then just we do this no reply thing just to sort of come back out. So that's my little form that lets you select your time zone stuff. And that's just Phoenix form stuff, and I just really love working with this. Even though I have to say, like, it's always a bit of I always have to look at another one before I do it. But then it's also sort of like neat compared to so many other frameworks. And so then one of the main reasons to be able to capture the user's time zone is so that when I send an email, I can tell them in their local time. So I don't have any JavaScript in that situation. I don't have a server connection. I just like have a list of users, and I'm just going to need them to tell me the time zone. And so I have like, here's when the next webinar is starting, 4:30 p.m. I actually just show the time zone as part of that so that they can be like, okay, that's completely unambiguous now. And then if it's the wrong time zone, that sort of takes them to that same registration page again. So by the time, I'm sending you an email, you've opted in and you've given me your time zone, hopefully. So here's how my email templates work. This is again, like I've created like a Phoenix component. I just really like using this component thing, so that's how I do all of my emails as well. So I'm not sort of editing some MailChimp database web form thing. I'm just using Phoenix to sort of do this. And once again, you can see when we're formatting, where am I formatting the date? I think actually, like, maybe it's not showing on that one. Yeah, you see this one, timex time zone convert, like this actually takes the user's time zone and like formats it in the way I want to format it. So yeah, the webinar starting now one. Do I need to update that other one? But yeah, you can see that they use that user time zone to format the date, and that's basically that. And then this is my admin page. So I literally, so this lets me kind of preview what those emails look like, and it kind of does some stuff to format it and make sure that hopefully there's not too many surprises once it ends up in your inbox. But it sort of like adds the kind of layout stuff and formats it like this. So you can see here, date and time. And then I can put in like, okay, here's the agenda, here's how to join. But then I just like, I show up here, I show myself the template ID, but I was just like, okay, I wanted to make an email to send to everyone to say that I'm doing these webinars, and then I've sort of done just hard-coded in a send to webinar subscribers, so on Monday I can just send that email off. So that's basically what my kind of admin backend looks like. And just for completeness, here's how we send. So we're in the admin backend. I've got the send to everyone, I've got the send to webinar subscribers, and then it's just using user notifier.deliver. It's kind of turning it into an atom to find the thing. It just goes and finds the template and sends that off to the right people. So yeah, we're sort of, you can see, this one sends a template to all the users, and then this sends a template ID to all the webinar subscribers. So that's all that is. So all in all, that was a lot of effort for a very little idea, and I still actually don't have a button to add the webinar to your calendar anywhere. So because I just ended up, you can get into these rabbit holes just to try and make something not jank looking. Like, this is just to try and give cuecam an air of quality, but you see, like, just for some tiny little thing how much goes into it just to show you the right date and like not have to say the time zone and all that other stuff and have it look human is not the simplest thing, and that's why a lot of people don't do it. But I like to do this kind of thing, and that's just hopefully makes the whole experience of using cuecam and the website and everything feel a bit more sophisticated, So thank you for watching. You can get Cuecam Presenter at cuecam.app/download. And if you're interested in the webinars, so the webinars are all about just helping you get comfortable, you just kind of play with cuecam in a safe environment. Just so you install that, and then we just have a little session where we come up with a little exercise, like, what did you do this weekend? Like, show a picture of your cat. Like, I don't know. I just like have a really simple thing, and then I can just like help you through, like show you a feature you might not have known about, help you maybe like, I don't know, like I'm hoping, the idea is moral support as well, and that's just something I'm kind of having to figure out how to ease myself into, because it's not necessarily something I feel super expert at, but it's something I feel like I want to get better at, and I want you to feel safe, I want you to feel comfortable, I want you to be able to use cuecam in a safe environment with the creator so that you can like get better at it really quickly. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next, it's 25-minute long. I will see you in the next one of these, which hopefully won't be 25 minutes long. Bye.